This is the Portkeys PT6, an affordable budget on-camera monitor from, well, Portkeys. Now this monitor is jam-packed with a lot of features, but it is being marketed by Portkeys as a live stream monitor. Now, we'll show you why later on. But before we continue, if you're new to the channel, hi, my name is Nico. I create videos about camera gear, audio equipment, and desk setups. I am not a professional photographer or videographer. I used to professionally edit at a podcast company, but all the opinions here in my channel is from the perspective of an everyday tech dad. Now, back to this monitor. Okay, just a disclaimer before we start. This PT6 was sent over by Portkeys for me to test and review, but this is not a sponsored video, no money changed hands, and I am not obligated to say anything about this monitor. So this is going to be a totally unbiased review. Now, with that out of the way, let's start with what you get in the box when you buy the Portkeys PT6. So first, when you get the Portkeys PT6, it will come in a hard case like this, not just a box with all the foam, but it's actually a hard case. And when you open the box, you will get, of course, the Portkeys PT6 monitor itself, a sunshade when you are shooting outdoors. It comes with two cables, one micro HDMI to HDMI and one full HDMI to full HDMI, which I am using for this A7 IV. It also comes with an Allen key wrench, and it comes with a swivel mount that you will use to mount the monitor on to your camera. Now let's talk about the body of the monitor itself. First off, you've got that on and off switch to the right side of the monitor and an HDMI out. You also have a DC plug if ever you want to power the monitor by using, a power brick that you can plug into a socket. Also, there is a USB-A port so that you can use flash drives to either one, load your LUTs, or two, update the firmware of the monitor. You also have a 3.5mm jack input that you can use to monitor your audio when using this for shoots. And last for this side is you've got a touch lock wherein you can lock this so that you won't accidentally press the monitor and suddenly change settings if you are already locked in the settings that you want to use. Now behind the monitor, of course, you've got the battery plate wherein it's actually a dual type of battery plate because you can use both the Canon LPE6 batteries or the common Sony NPF batteries to power this monitor up. Now, some of the specs of this monitor is it's a 600 nit monitor, so it's not that bright, so it's usually or ideally used in indoor situations, and the size of this monitor is 5.2 inches. Now, for the input of the HDMI signal, it can accept until 4K 30 frames per second, and it can output an image up to 1080p 60 frames per second. Now this Portkeys PT6, although I can see some like honeycomb grids here on top, doesn't have fans. So I think there's pros and cons to that. Number one, it is silent because it doesn't have fans, but if you're going to shoot for a long period of time or you're shooting outdoors under the sun, this may heat up very quickly, again because of the lack of fans on the body. All right, so now let's check out some of the features of the Portkeys PT6. Let me just turn it on, and one thing I noticed immediately is booting up. It's not that fast. It's not bad, I guess, but I wish it was, a little bit quicker. So you saw when it just turned on at that moment. Let me put up the time of it booting up. So yeah, so there, once you turn on your PT6, you will be greeted by an image. You can tap to pull up the OSD or the on-screen display. And to be honest, it took a little while for me to get used to how to navigate the menu of the PT6. So if you are in this area, you have to swipe to the left to see more of the options. Now I'm going to go through all the features of this monitor so that you know if the feature that you need is actually in this monitor before purchasing it. So of course you've got peaking, focus peaking, you've got zebras, you've got false color, you've got vertical extension, we'll talk about that later, you've got Luma waveform, you've got RGB waveform, audio meters, Luma histogram, 3D LUTs, rectangle crop, HDR, check field, guides, a crosshair, and grids. So basically everything that you expect a monitor could do, the Portkeys PT6 has. It is better than features. Now probably the least thing I like about the Portkeys PT6 is its brightness. It is only a 600 nit monitor, so again, if you're going to use this outdoor, number one, you have to make sure that you use the sunshade, and number two, don't expect a very bright image outdoor. Now I guess it is better than the screens that come with the cameras, but again, it's not the brightest of screens that you can buy in the market today. Although one thing I like about this is that the touchscreen is very responsive. I have to give it for the PT6. I've used this and there is no errors in what I choose. It responds quickly when I press it, and I think that's the reason why you have a touch lock here on the side, because you might accidentally press this, and since it's very responsive, and you might accidentally change settings while shooting. Now let's go to that feature that I talked about earlier, which is outputting an HDMI feed that can actually bake in, well, not really bake in, but apply the 3D LUT from the monitor to whatever that secondary monitor you are pushing the image to. Now, if you are someone who has done client work, you might have experience wherein you wanted to show the client the video that you just took, and probably you are outputting to a secondary monitor, like a bigger monitor for clients, because to be honest, these monitors are still small. But then when you show the client the footage, it's in log format, so it's flat. And the client will say, why does it look white? Why does it look flat? And this is where a feature like this can be very helpful. Now, you can output with the LUT applied so that the client can see image with the actual colors that you will send to them. Now, another application of this is if you are doing live streams, whether that's you alone in your room or like a big event that you are streaming live, and then you wanted to apply some color correcting or color grading, not even if you're not shooting in log format, but you want to tweak the colors a bit through LUTs, then this is an amazing feature to have, so that from your camera you will send out a image that already has that tweaked color to whatever device you will use to stream that image out into the internet. So that's one feature that is unique with this Portkeys PT6. Now, one of the things I was surprised with when it comes to the features is what they call the vertical extension. Now, I'm not sure where I could use this feature, but probably someone out there has a use, because I don't think they'll put it here if they didn't get feedback about something like this. But basically, the vertical extension is that you can stretch out the image in the monitor, and of course, when you output that monitor, that stretched image will also be applied to that final output. One thing I can think of right now is, let's say if you have a backdrop that is only until this side, then probably this part you could stretch to cover that part wherein there is no backdrop. I don't know. I really don't know where I can use this feature of the Portkeys PT6. Now again, going back to the lack of a fan of the Portkeys PT6, for me it's not a problem because most of my videos I shoot indoors. But if you are, let's say, a documentary videographer and you go out a lot and you go under the sun a lot, then this might not be the camera monitor for you. Especially again, it's only 600 nits, so this is more for people who are shooting indoors, people who don't use the monitor for longer periods of time, you know, at a time. So that's one thing that you have to take note. If that's a need of yours, then you know, you probably look at other Portkeys camera monitors. Also, one thing that I noticed, I don't know if this is a pro or a con, is that the HDMI ports are on opposite sides, which usually are on the same side, I think. I don't know, I have to check my other monitor, but yeah, I think just for aesthetic purposes, you have one cable here and one cable going out, unless you'd prefer that if your other device where you're outputting the image to is on this side, then that makes it cleaner. But most of the time, you know, you want all your cables in one side. Just nitpicking there. So that's it for this review of the Portkeys PT6, and for me, this is a very, very good option if you are on a budget and looking for a very, very capable monitor with, you know, again, what I said earlier about, you know, the limitations. But if you are using it like in a studio setting, it's not that very hot. I think for the price, this Portkeys PT6 retails at $169. I think that is a very, very reasonable price for the features that you are getting from this compact monitor. So thank you for watching, and if you are interested in other videos about camera gear, audio equipment, and desk setups, please do check out my other videos here, which I'm probably recommending to you at random, and I'll see you next time.